now. Can you hear them? Try to talk.
What's up?
Okay, I think you should be heard properly. If not, we're going to see the messages in the chat now being like, hey, why can't we hear anything?
Fair enough.
Okay, so as I was saying, I'm going to debate about anarchism with Alia, and Lux is going to be... Oh, by the way, I can say Alia or so say Ilya, I don't know. I'm not sure.
It's Alia.
Just call her dumbass. That works too.
Okay.
Okay, fair enough. Lux is going to moderate. So, Lux, if you want to start actually moderating this.
I think I'll just let you two go at each other, and I'll just step in if I think you two are interrupting each other too much, which I hope won't happen, or if I think the debate's being unproductive.
That's fine. I guess I can start by asking a question, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
So how would you define anarchism? Just so we can have a framework to have this discussion, and so we're in the same sort of playing field.
Okay, I'm gonna try to be as good faith as possible. I define anarchism as the belief that states how there is a set, anarchism is the belief that there should be no hierarchies above any human that same human does not accept. So that means that there should be free association between humans, and that implies that all humans should have absolute freedom to do whatever they want, as long as what they do does not affect other people, that is. That is the definition I'm going for. Of course, then, if you go on Twitter, you can say that anarchism is things like lack of all hierarchies, or some say some hierarchies are justified. I'm not going to enter in the specifics of every case. Just anarchism in general, I interpret as free association. Thank you, Terdotak, for following. Free association, lack of hierarchies, lack of states, therefore lack of states. And
So, I guess just to chime in there, we can work with that definition. The only distinction I would make is that I think anarchism is the process of trying to negate hierarchical power structures that are alien to us and dominate us in place of free association. That would be my descriptive definition of hierarchy. I don't necessarily have a humanistic interpretation of anarchism, meaning I don't center my anarchism on humans particularly. I want to liberate the consciousness of species beyond humans. But outside of that, I think you have a working definition, and I think we can go with that for this discussion.
Okay. No, because of course, as you've said yourself, very rightfully so, you may add further, just say, characteristics to what kind of anarchism we're talking about. But I was trying to be as general as possible, because of course, as we've cleared already so many times over, anarchism is not a rigid idea, and with all the consequences of the cases.
Okay, that's fair. So I guess we can operate with your definition, with that definition. I don't think it's that distinct from mine. So, what would be some of the critiques that you'd levy against anarchism? I think we can do it one by one if you want.
Fair enough. So my main critique when it comes to anarchism is the lack of logistics about it. As someone that studies international studies and takes a great deal of care into how to achieve things, how to do things in the first place, and basically be able to program policies and such, I find the lack of actual care into the logistics of procedures and anarchist policies very upsetting, let's put it that way. Another problem of mine is the...
can we do it one by one? So.
Oh, sure. Sorry. Go.
Because then we'd have to run through so many, and I want to
more
fluid. Yeah. So as far as the lack of logistics are concerned, I would argue that the current model, the current framework for how we reallocate resources within an economy, how we govern over territories, that is far more counterproductive and not conducive to human interest than like a fully liberated society. Because right now, when it comes to logistics, because we go with market signifiers and we go with like state, like the state regulating so many of our behaviors, the consequences has been an alienated society. Millions of people go hungry every single year and starve to death because use value is not in the center of our economy. Instead, it's exchange value. So millions of useless commodities are produced to fancy the luxuries of the upper class while poor people are starving and hungry because they're alienated from the centers of power, because they don't have any real governance over their lives. We have an opioid epidemic. We have a crisis of crime because people are in poverty and they're struggling and they can't afford their medications. And I think that a lot of the social ills that we see is because the logistics are geared towards the interest of an elite few who want to dictate the terms of how we regulate our lives and the way we develop our society. And just really quick, I'll give you a chance to reply. I think that as far as logistics are concerned, we've seen some empirical evidence to suggest that we have the framework necessary for an anarchistic society. For example, we've become far, far more horizontally organized economically than we used to be. And one of the characteristics of postmodern capitalism is a more horizontal rather than vertical market structure. We've noticed in sociological studies that human beings have a proclivity, given the right conditions, to be more cooperative. We've seen in psychology that, the Lord of the Flies myth about human beings being inherently violent and tribalistic is incorrect. So I think that we see a lot of the preconditions for a logistics that is more anarchistic in its nature. I don't think it's as big of a problem as people make it out to be. But yeah, you can reply to that.
Okay. Thank you very much for what you've said so far. So personally, I think there is a lot to go over. Personally, I believe that there are some flaws in what you said. More specifically, arguing that based on psychology and on sociology, there are the frameworks for more cooperation does not justify the level of cooperation there will be. Let me explain that. Many times I see also anarchists try to argue on like Twitter or like other platforms how, for example, we have a society, let's say, we have we had all societies, for example, like based on anthropology, like the old tribalistic, old tribal groups, or like even before great states rose, we had these societies that managed to live together in a more egalitarian, on quotes, kinds of lifestyles. And to that degree, I say that yes, they could live like that, but there is a strict difference in how things were to compare today. And by that, I don't mean that we've gone forward in terms of technology. Aside from that, the point that I'm trying to make is that right now, today, we have an immense amount of needs, materials, resources that we need that cannot be addressed by simple mutual aid. What I'm trying to say is this. You can, for the great majority of, the great majority of tools we use today make use of things like plastic, make use of things like work the metals, and all things that need an industrial effort. Given that, that as aspect of what we need to produce these things, how is it possible that we can create a society where there is mutual aid and can provide for these resources? Because again, free association means that you're free to do whatever you want. If you're being forced in a community to work, that defeats the purpose of anarchism. But if you need to create a society that also the claim to each their own and to each what they deserve in a Marxist sense, what sort of say, that kind of system has very high requirements, borderline stronger than what we have today with any welfare system that exists. And you need a heck ton, like a lot of resources for all of that. Free association possibly not any of that.
Because there's quite a few points there. Is it okay if I interject and
Go for it. Shoot yourself.
Sure. So to me, free association doesn't mean you can just run around and do whatever you want, because one of the fundamental notions of anarchism is that as an individual, we are a social animal, meaning that we require each other in order to coordinate and develop our free capacities. Otherwise, we'll just be stratified and fighting over resources, and we won't have the capacity to be free. I would argue that our current contemporary model of resource allocation actually hinders innovation and development, because different sovereign states might hoard resources, because there's going to be struggles over land and water and different elements of the earth. I'd argue that a free society that's built on free association, that's federated, where people can negotiate and determine where production goes, where inputs go into the system, I would argue that would be far more efficient and beneficial to the growth and development of an economy than our current system that's far more stratified. And I'd argue that innovation in technology and development would be superior if we negate the market. And the reason why is because the market disincentivizes innovation. Because what is standard, what is conventional, what is generic is what's going to make a profit, because we already know it works. That's why the iPhone 10 is not that distinct from the iPhone 9. That's why movies and art and television feel so similar in this decade, because art and innovation and technological development is disincentivized in a market economy, whereas under anarchism, we can have the free development of all, with the condition being that we have a social community where we're not alienated from each other, where we can pool resources together without conflicts and wars and, fights and so on and so forth. It would be far more effective. A perfect example would be Saddam Hussein in Iraq. One of the tension points between Saddam's Iraq and other nations was that there was a concentration of oil resources in that country, and the West wanted to exploit that for its own benefit. And if we had a more mutual, less alienated, less stratified geopolitical plane, we could share resources and invest in each other in a far more efficient and helpful way. And I agree with you that, old primitive societies are not a roadmap or a road print for what we want our future society to be. However, what it proves, what it demonstrates, is that human beings are not static. As our mode of production changes, as our means of subsistence changes, we develop and we change, and our behaviors can transform themselves. And it doesn't necessarily have to be this selfish, egoistic sort of behavior. That's the only point to make from an anthropological standpoint. So I agree with you that we can't, be like the primitive, hunter-gatherers. That being said, that shows the sort of fluidity of human nature, which is really important to the anarchist project. Anyways, you can respond.
Okay, so I don't want to be in any way offensive to you, so what I'm going to say in the most educated way possible. My point was in no way idealistic. Like, I made a point based entirely on, logistical. Like, logistics comes from a military aspect of organizing things to be efficient, okay? And you gave me this enormous reply, which made sense in its own regard, but it was not related to what I was saying. It was very idealistic, and I appreciate the very idealism, but that does not address what I was saying. What I was saying is this: if you need to produce a great deal number of things, you need energy resources, you need materials, you need people willing to do that, because again, free association means that you cannot force it. You need people that are willing to work for that, and you need also a structure, okay, which in economy is known a physical capital, to produce all these things. So the point is this: anarchism cannot provide for this. for many of us, energy resources. How can anarchism produce energy resources when will not be enough people to basically hold the infrastructure, to maintain the global infrastructure that goes from Russia to the bottom of Spain for oil, for oil canals, or for even gas canals, or like where are you going to take these energy resources?
I already addressed this point.
I did not, because if you tell me that people are going to collaborate between one another based on like finding better solution with each other, because the market on quotes impedes itself despite proof being the opposite in real life.
I hope you realize that the current society is one where it's difficult to allocate resources properly for the benefit of everyone. That's why billions of people in this globe live in poverty, because our system of resource allocation is so flawed right now under a global capitalist market economy. And under free association, we have more of a capacity without these sovereign nations fighting and conflicting to allocate resources to the benefit of everyone, because there's less barriers to trading and allocating and sharing resources.
Okay, but you don't have the tools. That's what I'm saying.
Have tools.
Because states are entities that hold airports, all the armies, all the tools, meaning cars, trucks.
Tools will exist independent of nation states.
But what will bring humans from Italy to, or like France or Russia, to move those resources to Cambodia, to Afghanistan, to Iraq? What will bring them to do it?
Because it would mutually benefit them. Here's the thing.
How?
You can even make an egoistic case for a social community on a global scale. People will naturally share resources because there's resources from other regions that will benefit them, because they want more people that have a developed faculty, because there's not the same competitive sort of mindset embedded in the system. People want to benefit themselves, and people are going to share resources. People are going to try to help everyone across the globe. In order for the entire system to be benefited, in order for there to be more innovation, in order for there to be more growth, in order to go across the globe in a free and prosperous way without any hindrance, being unencumbered by systems of repression, that would actually benefit compared to our current system.
It would not be possible to apply.
Under our current system of nation states, there's restrictive border policies. It's very difficult to get resources from other regions without coercion, without exploitation of the third world. All those elements will be eliminated in a society that isn't organized around hierarchies and centers of power control. So I'd argue that you're incorrect. I argue that people, that's the reason I brought up the sociology and the psychology, people having natural proclivity towards, being compassionate and sharing, if the material conditions exist in order to suit their needs, then people will change their behavior. This idea that if we have a freely associated society, there would be tribes everywhere, and people are not going to help people in this region, that's just not borne out in any data, in any study or analysis done by experts. That's a very sort of Hobbesian way of interpreting human nature, and I just don't agree with it.
Okay, you're missing what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this: given the fact that there is a hierarchy already present in resources, that means that some resources are more important than others. For instance, energy resources are the most important resource above all. Territories, since we will have very small communes, since we cannot have big communes because of how anarchy wants work. You cannot have big communes. You might have because you cannot have a consensus of many people. It's possible.
Wait, hold on. So there's two kinds of democracy. Okay, there's the gunpoint democracy, which anarchism would reject. But then there's the idea that you have 10 people. Okay, each of those people agree that we will hold a democratic vote and make a determination about what prescriptions we have from a policy perspective. That would not negate anarchism, because there was a pre-existing consensus to determine a vote. And I think that we've seen these sort of forms of anarchist organization in the past. You can call me a radicalism or whatever, but that isn't contradictory to anarchist theory. If we have these larger sort of communal societies, I'm sure that personally there would be a system of consensus that's democratic, while the major decisions are more...
Sorry.
Yeah, go
Sorry.
ahead.
I Twitter all the time come to me and say, Luca, anarchism
democracy is coercive because it coerces the minority
against the majority, or the opposite, whatever the case may be. The point is this: the minority is forced by the majority to do something or to feel the effect of a policy. Now, I'm going to highly recommend a video by post-comprehension called Democracy. I used to hold that position that democracy was contradictory with anarchism, but I no longer hold that position because democracy simply comes from the Greek term people's rule. That's not intrinsically anarchist. It simply means that people should have sovereignty over their own lives. And
exactly. Okay. But I get what you mean. But in practice, what it means is that you can have a set amount of democracy. You can have consensus democracy, which requires 100% of a vote by everyone to pass. You can have direct democracy, which is basically people vote directly for policies. You can have representative democracy, which is people vote for representatives, which these representatives collect a big group of requests and then make policies on those. And then, lastly, you can have limited democracy or contained democracy, which means that only parts of the entire population can actually have access to democracy, and therefore it's for the oligarchy, like it was for half Athens. That being said, you cannot possibly come to me and talk about abolishing hierarchies, abolishing everything about coerces a human, and then come to me and say, no, a majoritarian democracy is good.
That's kind of a straw man, because I don't believe in a majoritarianism that imposes its will upon a which is what coercion is. What I want is a consensus-based democracy. What that means is that everybody agrees prior that we're going to take a vote to make this decision, and it would only be for certain marginal decisions when it comes to production and high-capacity decisions on a large urban field. It wouldn't be the vast majority of decisions that affect our lives, and even then, it would still be built on consensus. It would just be a bit different kind of consensus. I don't see how
consensus when each and every vote. No, it's not consensus if you say prior to voting, look, guys, we're going to make votes about things, and then people say, yeah, okay, and then each and every single vote has a majoritarian rule. You don't call that consensus.
Okay. Just an analogy real quick. Let's say there's 7 people in a room, and they're like, should we go to Taco Bell or McDonald's? And all 7 of them agree, hey, let's take a vote on it. All 7 of them agreed. Not a single one's like, nah, fuck that shit. All 7 of them are like, let's take a vote on it. And then they take a vote on it and decide that Taco Bell wins. How is that contradictory to the anarchist principles of consensus in any way? You're still having
no consensus. The meaning of consensus means that 100% of people agree with it. We're voting something. If you in the vote literally have, for example, 7 friends, you have 5 people saying, yeah, let's go to Taco Bell, and the others should say, no, fuck that. The 5 are going to impose their wills on the 2, and it's
because the other 2 agreed on that basis to make that decision. They agreed we're going to take a vote.
That agreement, as you say, is already present in representative democracies when we go vote. The moment a person presents itself on the voting booth and votes, he is giving consensus for all, with your logic that is, for all the further policies that are going to touch them. Are you aware that is not consensus?
No, it's not consensus, and I'll tell you why. Because they're electing representatives that stand on top of them and are reinforced by a military bureaucracy. It is not comparable to 7 people agreeing on a democratic vote for certain decisions. That's not comparable at all whatsoever. A representative democracy, you are coerced and forced to be part of that system. You can't just opt out, okay? Unless you want to live in a jungle and die and starve to death. You are going to be cut off from all access to resources. If you reject the system, you're screwed. It is a coercion-based system because there's a centralized monopoly on violence. It is not comparable.
Okay, sorry, what's the difference between the current system we call coercive with a system unquote consensus, where basically a community of 30 people basically needs to vote on something let's make the borderline example, 14 vote against that thing, 16 vote yes, but that thing passes. How is that any different than the direct democracy, which is still seen by anarchists as coercive, because you still have the imposition of a majority of a minority?
No, a direct democracy is coercive because the presupposition is that it's going to be a democratic structure. There's no preceding consensus. That's the reason why direct democracy.
Oh my god!
Now, the distinction between my, anarchist ideal and our current democratic structure is a very simple one. If there is disagreement, the people as a whole can come to a consensus that we take a democratic vote. There isn't a pre-existing structure that imposes a democracy on.
Okay, by consent. Oh my god!
I don't have a choice here. Like, if I'm living in the United States, or if I'm living
Wait,
in
Alia, can you let him finish his point? He was about to say something. Sorry about that.
No problem.
What I'm trying to say is that if you make a consensus for voting, that means that you had a discussion already, that there was disagreement. So the fact that you need to have a consensus on something to vote for something means that you still need to have a small number of people, because if you're going to have many people, just look at Europe, and you're going to say, well, those are states. I'm going to make this argument here, and please let me finish from start to finish. Many people say that states behave in a very different way than humans, and that is a claim that I'm very against that. Let me explain to you why. Right now, let me put the example right here. Right now, currently in Europe, we have two, you could say, dictatorships, which are Hungary and Poland. Both countries cannot in any way be kicked because you need a consensus among all the countries except the one being voted out, and Poland and Hungary are covering for each other. So you basically have 25 countries, the vast majority, over 90%, but want to kick out these two countries, and then you have these two countries that, because of a consensus-based system, cannot in any way even be voted. You cannot even make the vote. That means, how can you even think about having a system that basically requires the vote of everyone, and sorry, not even vote, the consensus of everyone, even for voting, when you can't just have one person that can stop the entire thing? And that's why, that was my original point, you can only have small communes, because in big communes it is impossible to find the consensus between hundreds, even thousands of people. You're going to always to have a group of people who are going to be against, and then the following question is this: is it right to follow the human development or human choosing of the vast majority, sometimes even further than 95%, just because the 5% said no?
Okay, so first of all, I don't agree with your, the attempt to create an analogy between the state and an individual. The state is a socio-political entity with a centralized bureaucracy, with a military and armed force. It is not comparable to a human being, because a human being is a singular conscious entity that, that is just fundamentally different from the state. The state is an amalgamation of different human actors with distinct interests perpetuate the current order. An individual is not that. An individual is...
Does the state have interest?
Now, does the state have interest? Yeah. So do lizards. So do sharks. Virtually everything has interest. But
okay, why? But if a state can have interest, then why can't a human and the state can't be equated? Exactly.
Because the state is an amalgamation of human beings that are imposing its will upon other human beings. You can't compare an amalgamation of human beings with a particular interest on an institutional level with specific individuals who have their interests. Those interests are not the same thing, because on one hand, you have an institution whose very existence functions as a centralized power structure, whereas the individual is obviously just one member of that social whole. No serious political theorist or anybody would use the state as an example of an individual. It's comparable to saying a corporation.
the majority of realists, liberals, and even sometimes Marxists in international relations do this claim actively.
Are corporations
What, sorry?
Is a corporation comparable to an individual?
Absolutely.
Okay, fine. If that's the route you want to go, okay. I mean,
no, sorry. Let me explain to you why it is the case.
Go for it.
Both humans, both states, and corporations have needs, interests, and need resources like a human does, and have interests like a human does. Let's assume that a corporation or a human, both of them choose. I'm basically just touching the scratch of what economy is about. Both businesses and humans try to act in economy, but then we know that this is not true in real life, and economy takes this into account. But humans try to behave in a rational manner and take into account their maximum profits. We know that both humans and businesses follow what is called a prisoner dilemma for taking their choices. We know that the international relations are a great representation of the prisoner dilemma. We know that both humans and states, both of them have interests. Then you can go into detail and say, well, a state is made by many individuals and wills, and to that I say, yes, it is true, but it is absurd in any way to think that states between each other do not behave like humans. It is absurd.
Okay, so can I reply to that real quick?
Sure.
So here's the problem here, okay? A human being, an individual, is conditioned by their external environment to a far more fundamental degree to a corporation. Here's why. The corporation's bottom line is making a profit. That is not making, accumulating wealth is not intrinsic to a human being. It's conditioned by their external environment. That's the reason why an individual is going to behave different in a hunter-gatherer society to our current society to a communist society, because it is conditioned by a multiplicity of different factors compared to corporation or to the state. That's the reason why you cannot apply. That is the reason why nobody takes it serious. I hope you understand the dangerousness of the argument you're making. This was used.
Sorry, let me ask something. Do you believe that the min-max idea that animals, not humans, but humans are animals try to gather as much with the least number of resources, in this case energy, joules, call it as you will. Are you aware of this? Humans have that too. Humans want to get as much as possible with little effort.
I disagree.
You cannot disagree with a natural biological claim. Humans, by design of nature, are animals, and as animals we have instincts, and instincts include maximizing what we do with the least amount of effort. Then, hold up, because I know what you want to say. Humans don't always do this, and that is correct, because we have a rationality that forbids that. But just because we have a rationality that sometimes stops this claim does not mean that all that we basically do as humans is not sometimes led by nature aspects. It is absurd to think that we are completely separated from animals.
Okay, so I disagree with you, and I'll tell you why. In our the problem with using the natural sciences and applying it to human beings, this is a problem that, some Marxists even make this vulgar mistake. The problem is that human beings are so conditioned by external factors that the behavior we investigate may be correlatively tied to biological genuses or genetic codes, but in truth, that's impossible to demonstrate with certainty, because there's so many external factors in play that condition the way human beings behave. So you can't really apply a exclusively natural scientific analysis to the way human beings act. For example, I'm sure that, let's take your maximum theory, okay? people want the maximum resources possible. Well, okay, so the problem is, if I had to choose between $1 million and saving my mother, I would probably choose saving my mother. Now, the $1 million is a maximum of resources, but I still chose the latter because I have an emotional attachment to that. Now, you might say, okay, but that's different because, that's an emotional attachment I have with another individual. Well, the thesis that anarchists make is that natural solidarity and shared consciousness is a part of humanity as a whole. We are a social animal, so we are willing to sacrifice an abundance of resources if we're given the conditions that we can, flourish as a conscious being. If we're given the opportunity to thrive through mutual aid and mutual assistance. That is the presupposition that's made by anarchists. And that's what
Alia, animals, there exist social animals that have social hierarchies, and they still have a min-max logic to them. They still, the basic survival instinct that kicks in. You want to save as much energy in order to be able to survive, because you know that each action takes energy. It is absurd to come to me and say, well, no, we are humans, we have animal instincts, but we don't apply them completely, because I told you, yes, we don't apply them at all times because we have rationality, which in the example you took as well, you said, I'm going to choose the mother. That is a product of rationality and emotions which come from rationality. Because if you did not, if you basically only focused on profit, you would basically just absolutely have chosen the 1 million. But thankfully, we have rationality, which brings emotion, which brings the choice, with the right choice, in my opinion as well, of saving your mother. But going back to the original point, coming to me and saying the current system is
Wait, can I not address that point though before you go to another
sorry. Okay, so sorry.
I mean, okay. So what you're saying here actually proves my point. A corporation would not be able to make a choice between $1 million and a mother because a corporation does not have a mother. The corporation does not have that intrinsic social character that an individual has as part of a social ensemble. A corporation is a opinionated form of social relations. It isn't the direct, tangible social relations itself. And furthermore, I don't think it's fair to make a comparison between other animals and use that as justification to make prescriptions about, or I should say descriptions about human behavior, because like I said, that's easily susceptible to a correlation-causation fallacy. We can't, with definitive proof, say that there's a causal connection there. So we don't know with certainty what human nature is. It is a very abstract concept. There's a ton of debate. Human nature is
absolutely.
So okay, go ahead.
Absolutely. Human nature is not defined. I agree with you. But as I told you already, human nature is defined not by absolutes, but by averages. And we know that these averages are still present in human nature. And we know that, as I told you before, states behave like humans. Let me explain to you why. Take a state, just like it was an individual, in international settings, where there is no above entity. Every single state behaves with one another in dynamics which basically would influence these entities into behave in a way or another. Also, sorry, one moment, I want to interrupt 1 second, because I read a message in the chat that says, do you think that the economical system can affect the behavior of people? And to this I say, yes, absolutely. The economic system absolutely affects the behavior, how humans behave, comma. What I'm trying to say is that despite economic systems influencing humans, which is completely true, there are, I strongly believe in this, that the current system, capitalism, or mixed economy, currently as you want, capitalism, there you go, is basically has thrived so much and has grown to the degree it has, mostly because it finds that justification, that explanation into the min-max logic, and gives it sense. What I mean by this, the fact that, for example, we do so much work, study, everything, but then it's seen as a reward, the reward justifies the effort in the mind of a human. And it is why it is widely accepted, and it is why you don't see in the outside world, outside of Twitter, a great number of people protesting the system. This was the chat. Let's go back.
Wait, we're having record numbers of strikes across the country. We're having incomprehensible amounts of protesting.
Yeah, we are having a record
People might not
high.
Wait, hold on. You can't just make these points and expect me not to respond. You can't say. I agree with you that people may not explicitly say fuck every hierarchy, but people do feel the implications and consequences of those hierarchies, and you see it with the lack of social cohesion. You see it with the many protests, the discontent, people quitting their jobs, people protesting police brutality. Okay, hold on. There's more. You said quite a bit there. That's really important. The state cannot be compared to an individual. All you're describing is the fact that there are individuals within the state that have interplay and emotions and help dictate the way things are facilitated. That does not demonstrate the claim that a state is comparable to an individual. A state is conditional upon a particular social epoch. It exists to reinforce certain market relations. An individual is unconditionally existent no matter the means of subsistence, no matter the economic and social relations that exist. The state is an abstract amalgamation of individuals. It isn't their direct conscious experience. It is a mere intermediary. And to try to conflate the intermediary with the exact individual simply because the intermediary is comprised of human beings is a ridiculous argument.
It is ridiculous, in my opinion, to think that one, just because there are record strikes, it means they are a lot. They are not a lot. We're talking about a very limited amount of the population to begin with. First off, we're talking like less than 1% of the population. It's nothing in statistical numbers. Second point, it is absolutely crazy to me that if you realize that there is no entity above states, in fact, international relations studies, including Marxists, say that the international setting is defined as anarchist because there is no authority above states. How can you come to me and tell me that states do not behave like individuals when you would have no authority above states?
Okay, that doesn't address a single thing I said. The anarchist argument is that the state in and of itself is intrinsically predicated upon alienating hierarchies that separate individuals from their own desires. So the fact that there's an amalgamation of these entities that make up an international order doesn't demonstrate my conception of anarchy. Saying that would be just that vague. I don't understand why you don't realize that.
No, the original point was about comparing states with individuals. I showed to you that there is no authority above states, just like there would be no authority above individuals. And I'm saying that because of these similarities, humans behave states behave similarly like states, and vice versa when presented into an anarchist system. It is absurd to me to think that humans would behave any different than a state when a state, bear with me a second, needs to provide water and food for its citizens and needs to provide energy resources in order to maintain internal stability. How that is not the same as a human needing water and food to survive and energy to basically warm, to basically cook, to basically do any activity. How are they any different?
Okay, I've explained a million times how they're different, but let me just take another route. This might help a little bit. The reason why the problem here is that there's absolutely zero utility in making the state as an analogy for a human being or comparable to a human being. For example, if I ask the question, hey, should this state entity give a $400 billion subsidy to ExxonMobil? How does that relate to an individual? These are structural questions that are particularly relevant to the state, and when you bring in the state to make prescriptive statements about how individuals ought to act based on natural theory, it just doesn't make any sense, because the state is a distinct entity. Okay, so the justification for the state to behave in a particular way because it's been institutionally embedded in certain assumptions. That individual is far more unconditioned than that state because that state is conditioned on the assumption that we have a market economy and the intermediaries that
Oh my god, a state does not need to have a market economy, Alia.
Yes, it does.
What?
Okay, give me an example.
What definition of state are you using, Alia?
Name one state that had, throughout history, that didn't have a market economy.
Oh my god, I already told you countless times that the definition of state is not the Marxist one, but it defines an oppressive one, and basically does not define presence of markets, for fuck's sake.
Can you name one state that didn't govern over a market economy?
What? The initial tribes that hold a territory did not have markets in any regards.
Wait, you don't believe they had barter economies?
Barter economies are not markets.
What? Hold on.
Sorry. Are you really coming to me now and saying the markets are one thing based by currency and such, and now saying to me barters are the same thing as markets?
Okay.
Really?
Okay, 2 points to make here. The reason I brought up a barter economy was because my point is that this state requires exchanges and hierarchical economic relations to reinforce itself. I agree with you that a barter is a pre-market economy. It's a proto-market economy.
Okay,
my point is that the modern conception of the state, it presupposes markets. The reason why markets exist is partially to facilitate the perpetuation of the state in order to exploit the masses, in order to maintain...
No, that is just propaganda. Alia, it's just like I want to
anarchist.
Luca, can you let her answer? Or let it answer, sorry.
No, I'll let Luca answer.
No, you were talking, my apologies. Sorry, go on.
No, I've spoken a lot, you can make her.
It is absurd to me that you keep using propagandistic points to say the market perpetuates the idea of the state abuses. Oh my god. It's like you cannot come to me trying to explain to me that why anarchism works by using propaganda that makes no sense. The markets, as basically anyone that is not on Twitter interprets them, manages to give demand and offer, which of course is not always satisfied because of a number of things that are called failures of the market. The failures of the market are many, and the market is in no way perfect. But to say that the state needs a market to perpetuate itself when basically any economist that knows what the fuck they're saying is basically putting the market and the state as two separate entities, as basically the state can enter into the market to fix the failures of the market.
Any
your
economist...
logic, with your logic, if it was true, the states would need the market to perpetuate itself, you would see in all the West, entire states involving themselves 24/7 into the markets, but that's not what happens in any regard.
Actually, there is a significant amount of that. In fact, do you know what quantitative easing is? It is literally the Federal Reserve, which is partially market-based, partially federal. It is an attempt to manipulate the economy in order to produce
yes, but it's not 100%. It's not state capitalism.
What about the giant subsidies to Walmart and other large multinational corporations? There is trying to create a sharp distinction between the market and the state is asinine. There's a reason why even libertarian economists like Milton Friedman defended Pinochet and the authoritarian Chilean regime because he understood that an authoritarian regime would reinforce the interest of a market economy, because without that authoritarian regime, using the state and its boot on the masses would have revolted against those unfair economic relations. The market
was
rationalized. The state exists to rationalize institutionally the relationship that exists within a market. That's what state-funded schools do through their hierarchical means of educating kids and their attempt to make them into productive units. Every institution that is facilitated by the state exists to reinforce market economic dynamics, and it goes the other way around too. There cannot be market economies there cannot be a state without markets, and there cannot be markets without a state, because either way there would be contradictions that negate the system if the two didn't mutually exist. That's why the modern state. That's why the modern state came along with the existence of market economies, because the two reinforce each other. So yeah.
So first off, Friedman was wrong because we literally have the literal proof that fascism fucked the markets and it survived pretty well, as a matter of fact. It completely fucked them by using an autarky strategy, and what happened after was that many businesses died because of its actions and failed. So it was completely, what Friedman said, untrue. As a matter of fact, in economics, these basically the basics of economics, the more free a state it is in terms of economic institutions, the more GDP it has. It is the reason why states like North Korea and South Korea had such a diverging rise of GDP from one another. And
one question.
Sorry, go on.
Do you think markets would exist without a? Do you think markets can function without a state apparatus?
I never truly thought about that, but I think that they could technically, but they would be defenseless.
Exactly. The police exist to reinforce the market economy. The military exists to reinforce market interests in foreign countries in order to extract capital. Every single aspect of the state exists to perpetuate a market economy. That's the reason I asked you that question. That's the reason why anarcho-capitalists are dumbfuck, because they don't recognize that there cannot be market economies if there isn't a state as an intermediary to, mitigate class relations in order to keep the population passive.
Hold up. There is a difference between... No, sorry, go on. Never mind, sorry.
You sure you don't want to answer, or did you...
No, sorry. It can go on.
Okay, just making sure.
Last point I would make about Chile is that if you see studies, Chile has one of the highest economic growth levels in all of South America, and the reason is not because the population is prosperous. It's not because the population is happy and striving. It's because GDP and economic growth doesn't necessarily correspond to the well-being of the people.
Absolutely, I completely agree.
The reason I brought that up was because you said that Chile is not a good example of how the state reinforces markets. I simply disagree with that, especially when you look at the economic development prior to the coup d'etat and then the economic development subsequent.
I'm sorry, Alia, but you cannot disagree with the statistical proof. You have statistical... Sorry, need to drink 1 second. Sorry, apologies. What I was saying is this. You cannot disagree with statistical proof. As I told you, there is statistical proof that shows that authoritarian states, on average, have lower GDP than their counterparts. And this is caused by the fact that authoritarian states, on average, that is, have suppressive economic laws and institutions. So, with that being said, what I'm trying to argue with you is this. The GDP that I made the case for South Korea and North Korea, GDP is not in any way an absolute guarantee of the lifestyle or welfare of wellness of the people of a country. Absolutely, I completely agree with you, but there is a large case that you can make, but there is a statistical average that proves that GDP correlates with above average / positive lifestyles and wellness of citizens. That is literally citing statistics. If you want to disagree with statistics, you can go on. But Milton Friedman was wrong because proving the example of Chile, when you have so many other examples of authoritarian regimes using oppressive institutions for markets and still sustaining themselves quite optimally, actually, is absurd. One example is from average.
Okay. The reason I brought up that was because you claim that Chile was not a good example. I'm explaining why it is. But my original point, I feel like you're sort of making a Mott and Bailey, and I'll tell you why. My original point was that the state is necessary to reinforce market economies. The fact that an authoritarian state structure is more detrimental to the outflow and growth of the market economy isn't that pertinent to my argument, because my point is that the state is an intrinsically oppressive and repressive social structure. So no matter what, we've never seen a thriving market economy without some level of state intermediary or state intervention. As far as the studies are concerned, the problem is that there's so many causal factors that we can't really make and pinpoint an exact assertion, like, oh, more state intervention means a more thriving market economy, or more state intervention means a less thriving economy. We can't make those concrete statements because it varies. For example, in Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew had significant amounts of government overreach. He engaged in mass government intervention in order to, allow the private sector to thrive. Many of the paper tiger economies in that region, they had mass government intervention. They were very authoritarian. Their parties dominated for decades, and yet they saw massive economic development. China sees massive economic development in its corporatist structure, where different corporations are on a board and they are intermediaries and they negotiate with the state and try to make economic plans and development. That's an authoritarian government that's seeing mass economic growth. I don't think you can make this sort of universal claim that, this degree of state intervention leads to this degree of economic growth, or so on and so forth. All I'm saying is that the state is a necessity to reinforce market economic relations.
Is to you a group of mercenaries that defend the market and the presence of a market a state?
Okay, can you restate that question real quick?
Is to you a group of mercenaries bought by the merchants of a market, like literally 100 meters square of a market? These dudes just choose, we need defense, they buy a group of mercenaries. Are they a state to you?
Yes, and I would argue that they're a state to you too, because earlier in this debate, you pre-modern states are an example of states. You said that the barter economies that were governed by far less centralized social forces were also states. So I'd argue, mercenaries who have a monopoly on violence, who dictate relations in a particular region, constitute a state, yes.
Okay. Yes, that is true. The point is that I'm not specifying any way if they were not in another state or not. What I'm trying to say to you is this. What matters is not the presence of a state or not, because a market in itself could work perfectly even with a bunch of mercenaries, and it would most likely not be a state because it would be included into a bigger state for 100% of the cases. The point I'm trying to make is another. The point I'm trying to make is this. If you think about it, what matters in this whole discussion is not whether a state is authoritarian or not, but the fact that what kind of economic institutions it uses. And you said that a state needs to work, to use the market to sustain itself. I'm telling you, the average authoritarian government did not do that for a long time, and still today they do not do that. The exceptions are China, are Saudi Arabia, are Singapore, but they have suppressing civil and political institutions and have instead liberal political policies.
You don't think the United States is authoritarian?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, really?
You can make the case, but it has violated human rights abroad, and that makes it authoritarian. And I like to distinguish what it does outside from inside. Outside, it is definitely authoritarian. I'm not gonna argue that. On the inside, I don't think it is.
I'd argue that the fact that the United States exerts itself to such a significant degree in foreign markets and foreign economies for its own interests seems to suggest that there is a causal link between government intervention and economic GDP growth. I don't think that the distinction between domestic and foreign policy in this particular context is a meaningful distinction that you can make.
No, of course. You asked me if the US was authoritarian, and I'm telling you the US outside has employed authoritarian methods, absolutely. But on the inside, the US has actually been very cautious with market intervenience, and this is actually one of the biggest critiques of why the US is such an exception of the West, because if you see the average Western country, you would see that the US is actually an exception on so many things, from religion, from economy, from wellness, from welfare state. It is an exception of what the average Western democracy is, and this is why I always get mad when people cite the US as an example of democracy, because we have around 50 democracies around the world, if I remember correctly.
I mean, the United States is the largest economy in the globe. It has over 400 million people. It would make sense.
Yes, and it is now full of problems. Correct. It is full of problems, starting from the many people in Britain.
Look, I don't mean to be rude, but I feel like we're kind of diverging away from the point.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking the same.
My point is that there isn't necessarily a massive causal link between the degree of authoritarianism and the degree of economic growth. Because there can be
there is. Like you're saying, Luca, there is no correlation, but there is. You just haven't read about it.
Okay, look. Every time I give an example, you're just going to say it's an outlier, but the fact of the matter is, here's the problem. I keep bringing this up, but this is very relevant. You have to look at causal links. This is like when people, there are factors that lead to some economies being more prosperous than others that are independent of whether or not it's an authoritarian structure. For example, China under Mao Zedong was authoritarian. China under Deng Xiaoping and Xi Jinping was authoritarian, but one had a much faster GDP growth and economic growth than the other because there's independent factors outside of just free of state intervention. And to try to hone in on the state intervention aspect in order to talk about the level of economic growth, I just think that's counterproductive, and I don't think there's a strong causal link. But I feel like we're just going to keep disagreeing on this, so I don't know where to go.
I don't understand how you can disagree with an average, a statistical proof, Alia. We're not discussing whether it is good to break spaghetti in half or not for personal taste. We're discussing whether the sky is blue. It is a statistical truth. There is statistical truth that demonstrates that when countries, whether authoritarian or not, employ liberal politics to its economy, it's going to increase its GDP much more, but not employing. And you say, well, there is Mao. The economy of China was basically borderline on the bottom line. Everything done by any kind of government would have risen by a large degree.
You keep bringing up this line, statistics. We've seen the growth of all these Asian economies, massive economic growth. Vietnam. We've seen growth of economies in like Chile, in South America, that are far faster than other economies in the region. We've seen the economic growth of the United States that comes from foreign intervention. You can listen to one of these studies, but my point is that maybe there's this independent factor that your average data is taking into account that is this real causal link to this economic growth.
It is basically, okay, I get your point, but this is borderline saying the Earth is flat at this point, because there is statistically a strong correlation between the employment of the liberal policies and the increase of GDP.
But you still have liberal policies and still have an authoritarian state apparatus.
Yes, I said this.
Like, liberal market economies are compatible with a very repressive authoritarian structure.
Yeah, well, I told you earlier, I think...
okay, then fair enough.
Okay, yeah, you can have authoritarian government and liberal institutions, absolutely, comma. But as I said already, the vast majority of authoritarian governments do not use liberal policies for economics because it tends to often delegitimize the ideological proof behind the authoritarian state.
Alright, fair enough. I mean, I'd love to see a study for that, if you want to link it, sure, but it's not that relevant to my point. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. I see anarchy has been throwing rocks at me for the past hour, so I need to address at least what anarchy has been sounding at me. So the definition of authoritarian is not established. Okay. When I say authoritarian, I mean as the opposite of what democracy is. So a liberal democracy nowadays leaving aside the private ownership, but whatever, I don't care, like, it's not a point. The most important things about liberal democracies are freedom of speech, freedom of press, possibility of
freedom of assembly.
Thank you for assembly. I had the wrong word to talk about. Sorry, my apologies.
It's fine. I just wanted to help you out there.
Free like you said, free and recurrent elections, which means that the elections must be free and must be recurrent, which means that they must repeat every set number of years.
The problem with this definition of authoritarian is the same problem America and the definition of fascism. It feels more like a list than an actual description of the essence of what authoritarianism is. To me, authoritarianism is simply the existence of hierarchical structures where alien bodies impose themselves onto others without their consent. That to me feels like it is the essence of what authoritarianism is. Whereas you it feels like you're just describing elements of the worst forms of authoritarianism rather than the conceptual idea of authoritarianism. And the main point I'm trying to make is that, I get the discussion of what do you think of authoritarian governments to the GDP growth. That was a massive divergence from my primary point, which is this. The state as an entity reinforces market economic relations, and the state is intrinsically an authoritarian body. That's the point I'm making. So, anyway.
Okay. Okay, so, Anarchy 86 says, yeah, that's the reason you're talking about each other. For anarchists, authoritarianism is about concentration of power. Okay, so, this is another, so since I am here to critique anarchism, I guess I should get this out of the system. Another critique of mine is how anarchists butcher, in my opinion, a lot of words and meanings to give some sense to the concepts and ideology entirely. Because, for example, the anarchist logic, you could have basically an entity that does the exact same things as states sometimes, but it will not be recognized as a state because it has as a shield, ideological shield in my opinion, the idea of free association, association. Therefore, it is not oppressive because it is fierce. An individual can choose to associate or not. And to that, I say that to me, butchering these definitions, it is absurd. It is absurd because it goes to reduce what the actual terms mean. Authoritarian, ever since the first democratic constitution, which was basically the English one, the British one if I'm not mistaken, yes, with the Glorious Revolution, they already had a strong definition of what was authoritarian or not. And that definition went through to us today.
This might help clear things up. Let me ask you a question. Why do you think Soviet Union is authoritarian?
Because it does not. Hold up. Let me do one thing. Okay, now there is cat on stream, so the stream is much better. As I was saying, he's been sleeping here all the time.
Aww.
Sorry, I was saying. So you said the USSR, right?
Yeah, I'm asking a very direct question. Why do you think the USSR was authoritarian?
Okay, I think the USSR is authoritarian because it did not guarantee all those rights that are identified as civic and political rights are identified with democracy.
Okay, so why is refusing civic and political rights authoritarian?
Because civic and political rights oftentimes go and create what in political science is described as participation and competition.
So why is participation in competition?
Okay, I was starting to get. Okay, I was starting to get that. So the point is this: do you have a stream under your site right now?
Wait, do I have what?
My stream, because I wanted to use a paint drawing to basically explain.
Oh, I don't have the stream up.
Okay, never mind. I'm going to say it by words. So, participation in political science is identified as the ability of people to participate into the political system, not to compete, but to participate. Okay. Hold up.
Yeah, just let him finish.
The competition instead is the presence of competition of the ability of parties, people, entities, individual, whatever groups of people to join the political arena. So this is the point that I'm trying to make. On one side, there is a strong difference between authoritarianism and democracy, because authoritarianism cuts both participation and competition. Democracy instead reinforces those two to different levels, which is why we have flawed democracies and not flawed democracies.
Okay. This might sound really annoying, but bear with me because this is going to lead to something. Why do you value participation?
Because it is essential to have as much as of the population represented.
Okay, but like, why do you want as much of the population represented as possible?
Because the interests of the people are many, and the political parties need, the people represent the system. The system sends towards the political system. Imagine here for the viewers, there is like an arrow. This arrow is made of requests, demands, and feedbacks.
Well,
by the way, the system I'm using, if you want to go look it up for everyone, or also you, Alia, or Lux, is the Easton system.
I have really good news for you, okay? You are an anarchist. You just don't know it yet. You're right, okay? The reason we value this participation, the reason we value all these things is because it empowers the people. And that's the reason why my definition of authoritarianism is getting to the essence of what you're talking about. It is a systemic concentration of power that alienates itself from the people. Anarchists are simply descriptively explaining what you're talking about is less work. It's explaining the ontological concept of authoritarianism. You are simply extrapolating from that. So I think that you're an anarchist.
I don't agree. I don't agree, because I clearly said the difference between an authoritarian regime and a democracy in the current system. I literally said that an authoritarian system like China, like Iraq, like Saudi Arabia do not give competition and participation, whereas instead the current liberal democracies give a lot of participation, and maybe you could contest the openness of competition, but it's still very competitive.
My point is that the underlying values you're operating with to distinguish liberal democracies from authoritarian regimes are the values that lead anarchists to use that definition of authoritarianism, which is a rejection of a concentration of power by alien structures that repress the masses.
No. Quite the opposite. The idea that you need political parties to represent the great number of people is because of a great number of people in a political system, you need parties that take all the requests and channel them into single, more condensed requests. This is why the interests of all people can never be truly represented, because parties and policymakers need to basically go and condense a lot of requests to make policies that can work for as many people as possible.
Okay, so you said earlier in this discussion that people, okay, that is the central tenet. When we kept going through the Socratic method, you went to people. You know, the people are the underlying factor that determines the degree of authoritarianism, whether or not their will is executed or not. You implicitly acknowledge that assertion. Only distinction here is the presupposition you have that in anarchist society there would be this stratified division where different people have their own ends, whereas under anarchism, as I pointed out earlier, we're simply acknowledging that the social whole can be best represented by negating authoritarianism in its totality, not just certain forms of authoritarianism. My definition of authoritarianism is not incompatible with yours. It simply goes to the first principles. That's the only distinction.
No, I think it is completely incompatible, because as I told you already, the fact that you go and summarize and unify countries like China and like Italy, for example, as similar, it is using the same term, which is authoritarian, is for me absurd to such degrees that I cannot even comprehend where to start.
Okay, a random guy who shoots down his wife and Ted Bundy are both murderers. It doesn't mean the word murderer is downplayed. It simply means that there's a broader encompassing.
Okay, but when the different...
Both China and the United States and Italy are authoritarian. That doesn't mean they're all the same. It simply means that there's different variations of authoritarianism.
No, Alia, if you define something, if I define this bottle, I'm going to say this is a metal bottle, it makes no fucking sense. But then we take something completely different with like a bucket, a metal bucket, well, it is made of metal. It is completely different.
I just don't think your analogy is apt. I think my analogy is more apt. There's different
Alia.
There's different kinds of authoritarianism. There's different kinds of
Alia, when two things are so different, they are not both similar. When you say both two things are similar by using the same concept, you cannot come to me and say, well, both France or Saudi Arabia are both authoritarian, because it is extremely reductive of what authoritarianism is.
No, it isn't. You can simply use distinct terms like totalitarian. You can say that some regimes are more authoritarian and some are more democratic forms of authoritarianism. That doesn't mean that the term authoritarian doesn't have its utility. It makes sense to describe authoritarianism like that because that's the first principle. Whether we're talking about the democratic forms of authoritarianism, I use democratic in air quotation because it's not genuinely democratic. No matter what phenomena we're talking about, it can still all encompass authoritarianism while being different forms. And I don't like your analogy. A bucket and a cup is not the same. Whereas Japan and Australia they're all predicated on this idea of a centralized power having a monopoly on violence and having a bureaucratic apparatus to reinforce its will. The only distinction is that some have a greater illusion of power than others.
Look, honestly, I don't agree with this, because to me, the idea that anarchists call every kind of state as authoritarian, to me, is just an ideological shield to justify the abolition of the state. There is nothing of nuance to calling all states authoritarian, and then just by saying that, completely ignoring the idea of or the details of what different states are. Also, 1 second. I saw a question saying, can democracy be authoritarian in the chat? No, it cannot. Go on, Alia.
Democracy can't be authoritarian?
Correct.
Okay.
It cannot.
Okay,
By definition, it cannot.
Okay, let's say 55%. Okay, let's say 55% of people in a representative government say we're going to outlaw gay marriage. Is that authoritarian?
What? Sorry, I don't understand.
Let's say 55% of people in a representative government say we're going to outlaw gay marriage. Would that be authoritarian?
So you could make the case that it is cracking down on civil rights, but it would not be authoritarian because it would follow what is a majority rule first, and secondly, it would like how can I say this? Taking away certain social rights, it is not necessarily correlated with having a democracy being authoritarian.
Then I just find your definition of authoritarianism to be really counterproductive, because I think that trying to strip away the rights of an individual, whether it's by a mass or by particular individuals in a dictatorial system, both are reprehensible and both are forms of alien power structures imposing their will on others. In both cases, I would say they're descriptively authoritarian, and I simply reject your definition of authoritarianism because I don't think outlawing gay marriage or having restrictive immigration policies stop becoming authoritarian if that policy is agreed upon by a representative government.
Alia, it is absurd to me that you come to me and say, well, it alienates the rights and forces people to do things. But let me ask you something. In anarchism, do you think you're never going to need to force anything to make anarchists survive?
Correct, yeah.
You do realize that's absurd, right?
No.
So, let me understand, right? Remember the initial argument I made about resources and such. I would like to return to that because it was never addressed.
Go for it.
I said to you that you would need people working, you would need resources, people elaborating resources, you would need transport for resources, you would need people making resources and energy resources as well to make those resources. So
Voluntarily do that.
Okay. How are you going to get enough people to do that?
The vast majority of people will do that.
No, will not. They will not. Alia, please.
I'll tell you why. You can't just postulate this claim without me giving the...
Okay, sorry, go on. Sure.
The reason why is because the revolutionary process, building dynamic power structures to counter authoritarianism, building, a sort of solidarity through assemblies, building solidarity through, political revolts, mass revolts, building solidarity through various forms of political institutions, perhaps utilizing unions to a degree, that will create the solidarity and the vision of horizontal power necessary to change the ethos and the mindset of people so that their behavior is more in predilection with the new social arrangements that come to be. That's why anarchists emphasize a concept called prefigurative politics. What that means is that ends are tied to the means in which we use to get to those ends. So if we use horizontal, less authoritarian means to achieving a stateless, classless, moneyless society, we are going to have the proper ethos and the mindset in order to behave in accordance to what that system requires.
Alia, you're never going to find enough people when people have the active incentive in not working, if everything is provided to them. Oh my god, Alia, this is
Things
basics.
cannot be provided to them without them working, without them acting out. People are not just going to leave the trash in their neighborhood. They're going to pick it up. People have an...
Sorry.
No longer tied.
One thing is
The system is no longer tied to micro exchanges. It requires a social ensemble to actively engage in it in order for its perpetuation.
You cannot have people working 7, 8, whatever hours a day for a week to produce the things and expect to receive as a reward for their work the same thing as a guy that did fucking nothing, because there are people
7 to 8 hours. People are not going to work 7 to 8 hours. We're going to have... There's billions of untapped labor potentials within this globe. Because of capitalism, they're forced into miserable lives. Many people starve. Many people die. Do you know how much energy will be activated once we eliminate the global hierarchical structures leave us encumbered to this repressive system, we will transformative levels of development.
No, you will not. If you and I, both of us, need to live in an anarchist society, and you and I both get A as a reward, whether we work or not, what the fuck of reward of an incentive do I have to work?
Okay, first of all, I don't like the term work because I think work would be abolished in a social society, but that's just
okay. Labor, call it that you want. It's whatever.
Okay. But okay, why will people labor in a communist society? Because first of all, people feel a sense of purpose when they engage in unalienated labor. What that means is
that is propaganda. You don't know that.
Propaganda. People feel a sense of purpose once their production and their labor goes to the if I feel like my artwork, my handicraft, it directly benefits and enriches me and my comrades and my community, rather than large multinational corporations that are simply extracting my surplus, value, you're going to see a significant change in the mindset of workers.
No, you're not going to see them when you have the active incentive in stay home.
I don't support worker-owned cooperatives, but why do you think worker-owned cooperatives are vastly more successful than non-worker-owned cooperatives when it comes to resisting shocks? When it comes to resisting shocks and prices, when it comes to worker satisfaction, when it comes to how long they can last over a 3-year period, they beat traditional firms in all those categories. Why do you think that is? Because people feel more agency and more power.
Or because they have better payments and better social welfare figures.
Okay.
It's like, Alia, this is the point.
Why do you think they have better? Okay. Why do you think they have better people? They have agency over themselves because they can have bigger output, because they're going to be more productive, because they're not directed by external forces to the same extent as a capitalist economy.
Alia, this proves my point. My entire point was about economic incentive, and I proved to you because of better payment, they did this with more pleasure because they did not have to fear for survival.
Which one of you wants to make the first point?
Go ahead. Okay, sorry. Basically, what I was trying to say is this. It is absurd to me that you just proved my point because, as I told you, a co-op went better than traditional firms because it had better conditions of working overall. But the point is, and not only that, but also better economic incentives, which is my point for saying, well, in anarchism, people would feel incentivized into working for the community. No, they would not. Some maybe they would, I don't know. But the point is this, but you would have, if you and I are both in an anarchist society, and I work and you do not, I, as an individual, as a rational individual, I have the active incentive into saying, well, I'm not going to work if what I get from my time wasted or spent into doing labor instead of wanking off or playing video games, it's not
one of the reasons why. Let me say this simply. One of the reasons why there's so much economic growth in worker-owned cooperatives is because the structure is less alienating, because they don't have the same dictatorial boss governing their lives. They can have more economic output. And to use you brought up something about this lazy person not working under anarchism.
No, it's not laziness.
We have this.
It's not laziness.
Okay, fine. We don't have to call it laziness. We have a reserve of unemployed workers in a capitalist economy that are essential to the perpetuation of the system, because unemployment is used over the heads of workers to keep them working so that they don't end up in misery. We already have people not working. We already have people that are not as productive.
Okay, but the reason they do not work is diverse. Like what I'm...
Wait, I have a little bit more. Okay. So, in an anarchist society, people are more likely to engage in labor because that is more self-directed activity, and it's it's an extension of their own conscious, joyful experience. They can engage in their art. They can engage in, fishing in 1 hour. They can engage in different forms of labor without feeling this dissatisfaction because they understand that this labor directly comes from me. It's not alienated from me. It's not, put under a brand and, part of this sophisticated, exchange-based economy. I'm directly benefiting myself and enriching my community, which I have this conscious connection with because all alienating forces have been eliminated. I have direct, real, tangible relations with people. That is the product of an anarchist society, and that's the reason why you're going to see unprecedented levels of innovation, untapped potential in an anarchist society unleashed.
Okay, that you have first no proof for saying that. Second point, you need to understand that the reason why people do not work today and people would not work in an anarchist society are completely fucking different. In the current society, people do not work because they do not find work, because the work is not provided, and for whatever reasons. People would not work as much in an anarchist society because people would have the active incentive in not working.
Millions of people are quitting. Millions of people don't work because the system reinforces that social arrangement because it's alien to their interests. That's the point I'm trying to.
No, it is not.
You keep making that point,
oh my God.
There's no empirical evidence. There's no empirical evidence.
Do you know the empirical evidence what is? The majority of unemployed people in the majority of countries of the West are all searching.
They are searching, but that unemployed population is necessary for the perpetuation of capitalism. And you want to talk about empirical proof? We've never seen full employment in a capitalist economy because that's what reinforces the miserable relations that workers live under, their poor wages and their degradation. They have to fear getting unemployed. The reserve of unemployed labor exists to keep the churning of the exploitation.
Okay, but this does not address what I'm saying, Alia. This does not address what I'm saying.
I'm saying that the lack of work is intrinsic to an authoritarian, alienated power system.
That's not that. Oh my God! I said to you, people are not going to find the incentive to work in anarchism, and you're saying to me, well, how the current system is bad.
There's less incentive to work in this system because you feel no satisfaction for your labor. You feel no desire to work.
That's not just I'm saying.
Because 70% of people hate their jobs. You see a lot of people quitting their jobs right now. Right when they get the chance, they quit their jobs. Little paychecks. Because they hate your labor so much, there's far greater incentive to engage in labor.
What incentive? What incentive? The incentive is when I get the most money. If I get
that is not the only incentive that exists.
Okay, it is not the only incentive, but you're telling me. Oh my God!
In the good of the labor
Alia.
you engage in, having self-control over the labor you engage in, being part of a social ensemble that isn't hierarchical, and having more control over yourself. That is an incentive. Having great innovations because you're able to enrich your abilities because you haven't been indoctrinated by a school system that forces you to learn what's maximal for, profitable corporations. All those things play a role. How do you not recognize that?
Alia, oh my God. You cannot come to me and value some incentives that are comfortable for your ideology and others not. When you get in an anarchist society and you have a massive system of to whoever what they need, to whoever what they deserve, that means you need probably a system much more efficient than the one we have today. So that means you need a lot more people working than now. Hold up. You would have billions of people not having the incentive of working because they can get the same thing by not working, and they can instead spend much more time on what they like instead of labor, because remember, not all labor is fun, and remember, not all labor can be identified to a hobby. So you have a system that requires enormous requirements. You have a system that basically incentivizes people in not working. You have a system that incentivizes people in having of investing themselves into their interests and not producing.
Okay, you're making like 20 points. I gotta touch on. there's so much labor saving technology right now that can be utilized to ameliorate the ills of working people, that we have more of an emphasis on their creative potential. Create that art, create that awesome video game you wanted to create, but you can't because of this, monopolistic strain video game companies that create all this innovation and development. We have these labor-saving technologies that we can utilize for the enrichment and innovation of society. You say we don't have a sufficient abundance of resources to create the society. Well, we already have a massive surpluses of resources, and we're going to see unprecedented levels of innovation when we're unencumbered by a market economy that focuses more on reproducing profits based on general trends rather than breaking ground and creating real, genuine innovation. That's the reason, like I said earlier, I alluded to earlier, the iPhone 10 is not that distinct from the iPhone 9. The new Android is not distinct from the previous one because we're seeing a slope in innovation because they want to reproduce the same technologies and the same innovations because it's worked the previous time. Why won't it work now? That's the reason why we see so many sequels in Hollywood. It's worked the previous time. Why won't it work now? We're going to use the same formula over and over again because that's what's profitable. We're going to see a break from that once we break away from the market economy. We aren't even going to talk about incentives. What about the incentive of millions of people that are through the poverty line across the globe, if not billions of people who can't be invested in, who can't see their potentialities fulfilled because their extremely cheap labor is necessary for the market economy to perpetuate it. So all that innovation, all that growth, you don't think that can be utilized in order to produce a prosperous, horizontally based and run society? You think that people are going to just... Okay, go ahead.
Okay, if you're done, thank you. There is a lot to go over what you just said. First off, just because we have a production right now but it's high because of what you call coercion, which I do not consider bad personally, what you call coercion does not mean that you'd have the same amount of production without such coercion. You have no way of proving that. Second point, you'd have absolutely no way of saying there would be more innovation without in many funds to sustain that innovation. Third point, we have the example of Italy. Right now, Italy has the lowest number of graduates between the age of 25 and 34 because of the incredibly low investments into research. While instead you have countries like South Korea, which is about, I think, the second or third country in the world with the highest investment into research and development, that has had a booming economy and has been literally putting off on the market a fuck ton of innovations also for better wellness of the people. Also, I want to answer something about the chat. The chat is asking me if I think that coercion is necessary for having labor. No, I do not think coercion, as you say, it is necessary to have labor in any regard, but you need to have a system that actively incentivizes working. That is why I am more and more, as time goes by, identifying with what is defined as market socialism. Because market socialism, what does market socialism? So market socialism says we're going to give the basic sustenance to everyone, but then we're going to give the active incentive to people to work and to earn further money to earn things that you could not earn with the basic sustenance. No, I do not think capitalism is coercive inherently. That is something I do not believe.
Okay, so first point, you brought up funds. Funds are not an argument in favor of, your argument about innovation. In fact, funds are a hindrance because it's putting an economic, essentially a stopgap to you.
No, it's not a stopgap. It's an economic incentive.
Hold on 1 second. Okay, look, okay, fine. You know what? I won't be rude. You can reply.
No, sorry. I just said about those economic aspects and funds are investments and are incentives into doing research and not a stopgap.
Okay, so here's the thing. You're saying how are you going to have the funds necessary for innovation and investment? Funds would not even exist. that's explicitly what you said in your statement. The fact of the matter is that this would not be a problem because there would not be an exchange-based economy under communism. There would be a system where production is rooted in use value, and that would obviously benefit every single actor involved in the economy if we're looking at it from a classical economic perspective. That being said, funds are actually a stopgap to innovation because you're putting financial restrictions to access natural resources and various types of resources in order to utilize them for more innovation and more growth and more development. And then you say that labor is not coercion under capitalism. Well, your labor is literally commodified. You have to work under your boss in order to maintain your means of subsistence and maintain a decent basic standard of living. You even said yourself that where would be the incentive to work without capitalism? You're essentially forcing people through the bootstrap of corporations to work in order to maintain a decent standard of living, in order to maintain, you want them to live an exploitative life where their labor is a commodity, where, they have to waste hours and hours of your day doing sluggish labor that they don't want to do, that they're forced into doing in order to maintain their lives, compete with other people even though they don't want to compete, they want a secure lifestyle. You're forcing that.
This is why I am in favor of a UB. But this does not mean that a UB should provide for everything, because what I'm trying to get to you, Alia, is this, and also to the chat that seems to basically throwing more rocks at me than basically a criminal. What I'm trying to basically say is also, Arbuckle-Boone, please do not be toxic. You can disagree with people without being an asshole.
Agreed.
Please behave properly. Also, the other people, try not to react to a troll or whatever. Just behave properly. Everyone. I don't want to have to resort to ban to anyone. So, as I was saying, basically, the point I was trying to get to both you, Alia, but also to the chat, is the importance of economic incentives, or more in general, incentives. Now, you said to me that economic incentives are not everything, and to that I say, completely true. I agree with that. Like, the economy input is not the only incentive, but saying that the economic incentive is not the strongest one is actually absurd and unrealistic. If you want to get, if you believe that getting people to work for having better conditions while everything is already provided to them, and you think that is coercive, I'm sorry, but I generally, as I said before at the beginning of my complaint about anarchism, do not think that anarchism can be even established, because, let me finish, I'll finish shortly, because given that there is any lack of economic incentive, and the only incentive there is community love and community socialization, and I didn't even get into other problems, but that's for another day. Given that there is a strong lack of incentives, what I'm trying to say is this: it is absurd to me that you come to here and pretend to go against all economists, all statistics and such, to say there can be an alternative that goes against everything that we know so far. No.
First of all, you're overstating the consensus. There's plenty of Marxian economists and economists that reject classical economic theory, neoclassical Keynesian economics.
Yes, I know. I read those. I have a professor in my university that teaches that, and I get that.
That's an insular point. Just wanted to address that real quick. You talk about incentives. Okay. First of all, the UBI, sure, that could enrich yourself to some extent, but you're still alienated from your labor. That's not solving that problem.
What do you mean alienated? What does it mean alienated from labor in this case?
Alienated, what it means is that your labor is abstract. You're engaging in labor in order to reproduce the profits of a corporate entity without
Which you own.
Oh, so we're we're talking about a market socialist economy. Then.
Yeah, market socialism is basically our own.
And my argument is going to shift a little bit if we're talking about a market socialist economy. In a market socialist economy, you're still alienated from your labor because instead of producing for use, direct use value, you're producing for exchange value. That means to reproduce profits. Your firm still is still going to be competing with other firms. So you're not
and what's the problem with that?
The problem is that it hinders a social consciousness when you have these distinct firms working for a profit rather than pooling their resources together for the enrichment of everybody. You're still creating all the fundamental errors of capitalism. You're reproducing them, but democratizing them. That's the problem.
No, you're not repeating the problem. The problem of capitalism in a Marxist sense.
In market socialist economy, you're still going to end up having. Look at Mondragon, for example. You're going to still end up creating these hierarchies of distinct wages. People are going to vote to undermine wages of other workers because the incentive is still to reproduce a profit, and you're willing to hurt yourself and other workers in order for that abstract alien concept to rule over the way you sorry, my water bottle fell. In order to govern the way that you engage in labor and the way you do all that stuff.
Alia, I beg of you. It is absurd to me, but so what are the problems of capitalism? You have the capitalists and you have the workers. You remove the capitalists, you have or everyone becomes a capitalist. Either way, you remove the two classes system. So you solved one problem. What is the following problem? Well, if the value of your work is stolen from the capitalist, oh shoot, the capitalist. You have become the capitalist along with your workers, so that problem is solved as well. Just because it is sold on a market that people can choose to allocate their economic resources to have that good or to not have that good. So economic freedom, just because we have economic freedom, does not mean that the same institutions and problems of current capitalism are true.
Okay, I have a two-pronged response to this. First of all, it is very counterproductive to reduce your critique of capitalism to the relationship between the employer and the employee. That is just one aspect of why capitalism is problematic. That isn't emblematic of all the problems. That's first of all. Second of all, let's go over some of these problems. The fact of the matter is that when your labor is a commodity to be bought and exchanged, you are still incentivizing abstract labor over concrete labor. What does that mean? It means that you're going to utilize that labor for whatever produces the most profit rather than what has the most use. So many of the problems under capitalism where people with less financial power don't have their needs met, that's going to be reproduced in a market socialist economy. Only it'll be mitigated to a certain extent because you're still producing primarily for exchange.
Okay, but you do not...
desires of wealthier people who create more successful cooperatives, who accumulated more wealth, their needs are going to be met over people who have less purchasing power. And furthermore, you're still going to be alienated from yourself, you're still going to be alienated from nature, you're still going to be alienated from others because you see them as merely objects for your own accumulation of wealth, that you see them as agents. You might have a more democratic system where they have better relationships, you might have, less degrees of alienation, but you still see them as means to ends, that ends being profit. That's the fundamental problem here that you're not recognizing.
Because it is not a problem. I find absurd that one critique what you said is you lose the link with nature. What? What are you talking about? What does nature have to do with anything?
Because nature is seen as a commodity that you can exploit for profit. The problem, you don't want to have a harmonic relationship with the natural world.
If we want to live beyond a tribalistic state of life, no, we cannot have it.
You can have harmony with the natural world without living in a tribalistic society. You
cannot, unless you start killing 3 billion people to be able to not reach the level of production.
I'm not advocating for anarcho-primitivism. I'm saying that we shouldn't...
That is the result if you cite nature. Nature is good. Yes. Think about it. We reached, I think 2 years ago, in 2019, the limit of what the Earth has to give us August. And bear in mind, we still have a great number, let's put it that way, a great number of emerging countries and developing countries, but, sorry, but are still increasing their life conditions by the day and are improving their economy by the day, and with further generations and further years that have gone by, they're going to become more and more like the West. With that being said, unless you kill or basically make somehow in a Thanos way disappear half of the population, you're never ever going to have high quality of life and basically living in harmony with nature. They sure are not possible.
I don't think you recognize that I'm not saying we can't utilize nature for our own benefit and enrichment. What I'm talking about is the perverse incentive of profit, which seeks continuous, constant reproduction, which will lead to an excessive exploitation of natural resources. Because you seem educated on game theory, all it takes in a market economy is for certain individuals to overly, excessively exploit nature for their own personal profits, for the entire system to be undermined. Because in game theory, it's pretty clear that every single individual has their actions have implications that reverberate to everyone else. And that is the problem with centering a profit-based economy in the way we perceive nature, rather than rationally utilizing natural resources for the benefit of different actors.
Do you believe in the game theory games?
Not necessarily. It depends. I mean,
oh my god. Okay. Look. It is impossible to have a good quality of life. And so hold up, Alia. Trident Reaper says game theory depends on the context, Luca. Yes, but actually no. A lot of game theory games are defined in a way that can be applied always. Then you can start to change how the game is played based on the context. So to that, in a sense, you're right. You're absolutely right. By the way, going back to you, Alia, sorry for if I interrupt myself sometimes. Sincere apologies. What I was trying to say is that, you cannot have a good quality of life and a healthy way of basically behaving with nature. Not when we have just 52, 53 post-industrial countries, or around that number, and only on a total of 200 countries. So basically, you have still over 140 countries who still have to go through, are still industrializing, and are still doing basically everything they can to develop even more. You cannot in any way come to me and say, well, if they also industrialize and also improve their conditions, which, by the way, they have an ethical right to do so, unless you come to me and say that they cannot do it, which would be neo-imperialism or neo-colonialism, unless they can do it, these developing countries are also going to develop, and it's going to cost a lot of resources, and those resources are going to need to be produced.
Okay, so let's break this down, okay, one by one. So I am totally in favor of utilizing natural resources in order to grow your economy, in order to enrich the needs of every individual within that economy. I'm not an anarcho-primitivist. I support the utilization of technologies in order to further accumulate resources to benefit and enrich everybody. That's first of all. Second of all, these African countries, they're primarily African, that are, not industrialized to the necessary degree, who need to exploit more natural resources. I would argue that they would be better off. The reason that they're forced to exploit resources to such an abundant degree is because of this concept of perpetual economic growth. Capitalism is predicated on the idea that there needs to be the supply necessary to meet the demands of the consumers. Otherwise, an excess supply that doesn't see demand results in overproduction and economic decline. So there is this incentive to force massive amounts of production in order for these countries to perpetuate themselves, and that's contingent on the dynamics of a market economy. If we are to abstract away a market economy and recreate incentives that are based on direct concrete needs, you're going to see a lack of necessity for this degree of exploitation in natural resources from these developing unindustrialized economies or non-industrialized economies.
I feel like all you said means nothing. Like, okay, capitalism needs strong levels of production. Okay, I think everyone in here knew that, but like, you did not address what I said. But regardless,
all right. If you don't,
but regardless, I want to go back again to the original point. Because I want to wrap this up because I think we're going for 2 hours and we could go over for other hours because I have many other critiques and more right, more wrong, but it's of course. But I do not want to take too much time, both of you, of Lux, rightfully so, and also do not want to take too much time of the chat. So I'm going to conclude just by thanking you, Alia, and Lux for moderating. My apologies if sometimes I interrupted you. Sometimes it just goes over me. I sincerely apologize. I also want to thank the chat for the interaction and for being here. Much appreciated. And also want to say one last thing. I see why you may like anarchism or why you may be an anarchist. But to me, there are too many problems that do not find an answer or are borderline propaganda with no clear answer as to achieve and ignore much of the already registered sociological, economical and psychological proof that shows that certain domains where anarchism cannot be sustained. At least in my opinion. Alia would say, no, Luca, you're an idiot and you're wrong and we could go over for hours. But that is just basically my opinion and I hope we can close this up right now if you don't mind.
Should I have a closing statement?
Sure, you can go for it.
If you pay attention to this discussion, I think that you will agree with me.
Again, the only potential agreement we had was on the possible definition of authoritarianism. But again, that is the only definition that we really could have, like the only point we could have agreed to begin with, because we disagreed on basically everything, because you see the very idea of working for a wage, even if you're sustained, as coercive. I don't see it as coercive, and also I think that people should be forced to work for society when the society requires it. It is why I do not think that an anarchist society could ever be achieved, because as I told you already in another context, given that people have the active incentive of not working because they can get a reward by either working or not working, which is also a critique of communism, but communism has other problems. Given this problem...
sorry, my computer muted. Could you go back a little to what you're saying?
Sorry, yes, sure. I said I don't think that working for a wage when you're provided a payment is how can I say this, coercive. And I also think that being coerced to do what pedophilia allegations? What are you talking about, guys?
The Maoists have raided your chat.
Hold on. If any Maoist ever wants to debate me on this pedophilia allegation, come on stream so I can fucking destroy you.
Okay.
Sorry.
As I was saying, I think that being coerced. No, Alia is not 14. At best, I am 12. You can see the usual beard of a 12 years old that I have.
I'm the 14-year-old here, not Alia.
Oh, fair enough. Sorry, I thought you were 13, not 14. Okay, never mind. As I was saying, I don't think being coerced to do a work for society is a bad thing, especially when it comes to the survival of a society itself. So this is where I would always disagree with anarchism, because I think that even when anarchism has an and also communism has an active incentive in making a person not work and invest his time into leisure activities or investing in themselves only, as you can get a reward by working or not working. I have a strong belief that I've always heard rumors. Some people have what is defined as Luca derangement syndrome. To ignore them, they are just deranged, then just whatever. But yeah, this is where I would always disagree, because I don't think being forced to do a job is bad when that being forced is useful for the survival of the society itself.
Alright, I feel like I addressed all the points already in this debate, so I'm happy to conclude if we want.
Wait, I'll get something you two can agree on.
Okay.
Is fucking dogs wrong?
Yes.
What, sorry?
Is fucking dogs wrong?
Let me call Lucy. Hold up.
I knew you would get that reference.
I need to hold up, let me see if she's online. Is she online? No, I need to check, because this is important. I need to ask her. No, she's not online. Well,
Rip.
that's unfortunate.
Just send her a clip of that.
Well, I think once the stream will end, you can actually clip and such.
Well, I was streaming, so I'll just clip it myself.
I can't wait to see the fucking mess that will be Twitter now of anarchists just throwing rocks and dildos at me. But yeah, I'm gonna
believe me, the social democrats despise me just.
Oh,
yeah, like me.
I don't mind being despised in good faith. The problem is when we start rejecting me, that I get annoyed by that.
Yeah.
So yeah, with that being said, I want to kindly thank everyone that has been here in the chat. Thank you very much for the interaction. I sincerely apologize I could not interact with you more, chat. I will probably, as soon as I feel like ready and all, I would like to stream more. So if you would like to ever come to my stream and discuss with me about things you disagree with me, I'm here and I will do it with pleasure. I also want to kindly thank Alia and Lux for providing me their time, and really, I immensely appreciate your patience. We've been here for 2 hours and I immensely appreciate it. With that being said, thank you all to all of you, both in the chat and Lux and Alia, and take care of all of you.
Hey, you too.
Alright.
Thank you.
You too. Thanks.
Yeah. Jeez, it was 2 hours. I'm fucking tired. Oh shit, my phone's almost out of battery. Yeah. You guys have no idea how much I wanted to actually say something. But I am a neutral moderator and therefore I will not interfere in the debate. At least we can all agree that fucking dogs is wrong. Yeah, I'm not getting paid enough for this shit. I can change my audio. Yeah. I still can't hear shit. Oh, fuck. He's a big chunky boy. Mm-hmm. You fool, this isn't even my final form. Oh, shit. I'm just trying to get Alia. Post recap. But it's not answering, so that might not happen. Maybe. I guess I could end the stream and then try and clip the thing. Probably should play Calamity in Terraria, but yeah. Never gonna give you up. I'm so used to just not saying anything after that debate. As your neutral moderator, I will not say shit. But who won the debate? Hard to say, honestly. Although I guess maybe I'm just biased or something. I don't really have a definitive winner here. Also, my pronouns are she, they. Which is nice. I still don't have audio. I hope you guys have audio. I should... Nah, fuck. God damn it. God damn it, I remember someone asked me to get Luca to say trans deer. Oh, he probably would have said it anyway, so not much to worry about. Ah, shit. I wasn't paying attention. I am Lux. Seriously, when would it answer me? Where does it go? Maybe it just doesn't read my DMs. Probably the latter. Glass eye. Obsessive fan. Doing your mom. I'm surprised Ellie didn't make a joke like that in the entire debate. Yeah. Actually, really, I'm curious what Lucas' chat was saying. It sounded like they were all roasting him, which in that case deserved. Roasting Luca is morally correct. Yeah. Guess they added new boss items with the new patch. Oh, fuck you. Yeah. Doing your mom. What does the shop have? Ooh, marbles. That's a good item. That's a good item. Good trinkets. Explosions. I don't think anyone really won that debate. I mean, I guess there was that one moment where Lucas said, like, the Democratic majority, like, voting to take people's civil rights away wasn't authoritarian. That was a yikes moment. But other than that, there wasn't really anything else. It was just it was back and forth. Just back and forth. I wonder if there's like a VOD where I can just post review the chat. Oh, I want to see how bad it got in there. Mainly because roasting him is fun. Also, I think he like kind of condescendingly mocked its points instead of actually like doing a proper rebuttal, which might optically look horrible. I don't know. I don't fucking know how people work. But that's really about it. So I guess Alia slightly won the debate. I just can't tell because I wasn't in Luca's chat. Coconut dick sunking example would have been funny though if it brought it up. For coerced labor. Doing none of these are good. Gimme. I need the coins. My audio's fucked. The hell of the firm isn't the fact that the firm has a boss, it's the firm itself. I'm not paying attention. Give me a coin. Thank you. I don't even know why I'm playing The Binding of Isaac. I already, like, basically 100% of the game. Except for Dead God, which I haven't gotten for some reason. By some reason, I mean I have no fucking idea. Yeah. Yeah, maybe someone's gonna clip the human rights violation clip. Maybe, I guess. I don't think so. I'm not. I don't really care enough to. I guess someone else could if they wanted to. Clip. Clippity clippity clip. God damn it, I should have said thank you Mussolini for attending our debate. Oh, he would have been so mad. I like his accent though. Sounds funny. No, give me the money. Greed. Binding of Isaac is an example of why capitalism works. I think. I don't think. Give me the money. Shit to do. Oh. Okay, but why can't I hear anything? Oh, I hate this computer sometimes. Technical difficulties.
Experimental build.
booger tears. Yay. It's kind of what the golden trinket. It spawns a wreath and spawns blocks. It basically doesn't. Barusi. Oh, hey, the anal beads. I mean, what? Trying to get into a call with it is so annoying. Okay, seriously, what the fuck is going on with my audio? It appears you've been alone for some time. Doesn't work now. Did that work? Yeah, there we go. Chapter 1, The Tight Squeeze. The horror game experience.
You are about to see the most incredible doll ever invented. Her name is Poppy, and she is the first truly intelligent doll in the world. A little girl can talk to her. Poppy gives her answers. She is the first doll actually able to have a conversation with a child. Hard to believe? Just watch.
Poppy playtime! Poppy's as lovable as a real girl, and she talks like one too.
What the fuck is wrong with her eyes?
Poppy, I love you.
Oh,
Can you help me polish my shoes? Why, of course, Poppy.
Every time
Just
I see like
like a
someone
real
else's
girl,
eyes
Poppy
in
always
pain,
wants
like
to
even
look
if
her
it's just
best.
fictional, it just fucking hurts my eyes.
Thank you. Her hair is sturdy and won't come out when you brush it, and smells just like a poppy flower.
Oh,
Is there anything else you'd like to say, Poppy? I'm a real girl.
No, you're
Just
not.
like
You're a fucking
you.
puppet with fucking
What's
human
the time?
eyes. You're probably Chucky the murder doll.
And if you've ever wanted to see how all of the nation's favorite toys were created, Playtime Co. is now offering factory tours at just $2.99 a person. An entire hour in the most magical toy factory on Earth. What are you waiting for? Come visit the factory. We can...
This game is actually a postmodern critique of capitalism. I think. I don't know. I just say shit that sounds cool. Neat. Neat. Can I go back? I'm a hacker. I am not a hacker. This is why you never go to abandoned factories. Actually, fuck it, this is why you don't go to anything that is abandoned. What is making that noise? Why is there a train up here? Give me the train. Like, fuck. That blood. That looks like blood. Thankfully, this place isn't haunted or something, I assume. Seriously, what the fuck is the code? Does anyone play this? Oh.
Hi, my name is Leith Pierre, and I'm the head of innovation here at the Playtime Co. Toy Factory. If you're seeing this, then you're trespassing. Yeah, we play this little tape on loop whenever we close the factory for the day. So, trespasser, just to make you aware, while we pride ourselves primarily on our high-quality toys and excellent child care, we also pride ourselves on our security. For example, this facility is full of hidden motion triggers, which, once set off, will turn on the factory's emergency alarms and directly contact the authorities. And that's one of the more tame aspects of our security system. No spoilers. So, you've got my warning. It's not too late to turn around. I just hope that you're certain whatever you're doing is worth it.
Oh, that wasn't helpful. What the fuck is the password? I'm trespassing. There's nothing to fucking grab here. What if they ever kill you for being AFK? Make a fucking train. Okay. This is getting on my nerves. Why is there just a train up here that's been running for like fucking who knows how long? 30 years? I don't know how old this place is. Like a password or something in here? Nope, there's just blood. Yo, douchebag, what's the password? No way, there isn't. Absolutely nothing.
What if you well, you know, it'd be really nice if you just gave me the password. Shoot myself. You didn't give me access to this area, there's nothing in here. Doesn't make any fucking sense. Wait, they made this for 3-year-olds? Oh, those poor kids. I'm a ninja. Yahoo. Wait. Nope. Anyone know how to solve this puzzle?
Oh, I guess I can correct the password time to go home. Handprint. How am I supposed to get a handprint? Pink, yellow, red, blue, pink, yellow, red. What's up, faggot? I can't hear you. Blue, pink, yellow, red. Oh wait. Red, yellow, pink, blue. They fucking hate security. Buzzing me. Master hacker. I hate this game. What the fuck is the password? Motherfuckers didn't give me a password. I don't know where to find it. The horror part of this game is trying to figure out the password. What? What?
What? His name's Huggy Wuggy. He's really nice. Don't die. Red, yellow, pink. Really? Wait, that was green? Oh, that's fucking bullshit. What the fuck is this? Ooh, VHS tape.
Yo.
Sup?
Yo, dog.
Not
Hello?
much. Hey, can you hear me?
What? Are you talking?
Yes.
Wait, is anyone there? Nah, I'm fucking with you. I can hear you.
I fucking knew it! I was like, you do, yeah, because you do this every fucking time we chat. You're just like, you fuck with me. And not in the fun way, you really.
It's pretty hilarious.
Like the same joke over and over again. Doing your mom.
Which joke? It's not doing your mom.
I'm just playing a horror game. I
Have
spent
fun.
I just spent like the past 20 minutes trying to figure out the password.
Well, that sounds like a you
Fuck you too. Wait, oh my god, I hate women.
You hate women?
Yeah. Anyway.
Why?
I just do. Built differently. Alright. Anyway, let's do the post-debate recap.
Sure.
Who did you think you destroyed him, or?
I wouldn't say destroyed.
You own
Some
it?
people said I just. I said I barely won. I'd say I won, but it wasn't as.
Yeah, there wasn't that many yikes moments for him, other than that human rights is an authoritarian, like taking away those.
Yeah. It's true.
That was for me, like just like what?
Yeah, I don't know. He kind of. When he said this state is the same as a person, that was kind of cringe. But. I don't know.
That's tiny moment.
But like, he didn't get destroyed. I mean, he was better than I expected.
Honestly, when he said like capitalism isn't coerced, I would have just gone for the coconut dick sucking example.
The funny thing is that came up in my head. That came up in my head exactly.
I actually like legit was about to text you on Discord saying coconuts. Oh, that would have been.
Bruh, you're can I borrow your stream for my upload?
Yeah, of course. Once it's done.
Okay, fair. Because
I'm still
because
streaming.
Luca
Yeah.
No. Because Luca accidentally forgot to press like record or some shit. Forgot what it works for Twitch.
I mean, it's just me
Then
playing. It's just me playing video games in the background, so you'll have to use that.
Yeah, that's better than the Luca one. Since it shows
What, with the sexy face?
That would be so awkward for me to upload Luca.
Yo, what's up? It's me, Zoomer Nation. It's just a picture of Luca's face. The one I love to make fun of on Twitter. You have no idea how memeable his profile pic is.
Yeah, but he's good looking.
I agree.
You disagree?
No, I said I agree.
Oh, okay.
Lol. Yeah, I'm still streaming. I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing.
Okay, I'm gonna have to cut all that out of my upload, obviously.
Well, yeah, you just download the VOD and then just get to the part where where it's over or something. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think you kind of won, but like not hard.
Fair. Some people said I destroyed him, but those are anarchists, so I can't.
Well, yeah, didn't like a bunch of people raid his chat?
Yeah, but those are also Mao. Not everyone who raided his chat was like anti-Luca. There was a few Maoists who just wanted to call me a pedophile.
Oh yeah, you can also grab that clip of me of us like dunking on Lucy with the dog thing. Whoop! I'm playing a horror game, don't mind me. What the fuck? Fuck you, Huggy Wuggy. I literally gave you a high five and then you just run off. Welcome to streaming, Alia. It sucks. Although seriously though, like... I don't know. I wonder if people are gonna bitch that I was a bad moderator. Fuck you. Yeah.
Huh?
You think people are gonna bitch that I was a bad moderator?
Hello?
Yeah?
Oh, you're there.
Can't tell if you're fucking with me or not.
I wasn't fucking that time.
Oh, you just couldn't hear me?
Yeah. Because, yeah.
Doing your mom.
It's not doing your mom.
Okay, how do you pronounce it then?
It's doing in your mom.
Doing in your mom. I fucking hate that meme.
Doing in your mom. What a hilarious banger I made.
You say the same joke 3 times a fucking day.
Not 3 times a day, no.
Yeah, you can do that.
I tweet it out about once a day. Sometimes
you won't shut the fuck up about how you're doing my mom. Doing my mom. You with your same... Hey, you bitch that I make the same jokes too many times.
Yeah, it's funny when I do it.
So true.
Some jokes have this sort of classical element. Like, they're always funny, no matter what context.
I promise you saying the same joke 50 times, it eventually stops being funny.
Trust me, doing in your mom is just a new kind of humor that...
You literally got mad when everyone said doing in your mom when you were complaining about the reviews on Rotten Tomato.
Because context matters. There's a time and a place.
Yeah, there was Dune and it was mentioned. That seems like good enough context to use the joke.
It was a serious topic about movie reviews, and doing in your mom doesn't fit into that. It's just not...
Nah, I'm pretty sure it's appropriate for that context of Dune and your mom.
Okay.
Wait, do you remember? Did you ever see that one meme where it's like the soy jacks like pointing at the worm in the desert?
Yeah, I did see that meme.
I know you saw the movie too. Actually, I haven't seen Shang-Chi. It's apparently on Disney Plus. I just haven't gotten around to watching it.
Why do you have... Hey, give me your Disney Plus username and password.
Alright.
No, I'm kidding.
I mean, I don't fucking care.
Wait, actually?
Yeah, I don't care.
Yay, thanks. Because I don't...
Yeah, you
I don't...
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, no. What were you gonna say?
I don't even know what I was gonna say. It just said you get access to all the movies.
Yay, because I have all the Star Wars movies, but the disc won't work.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure all the Star Wars movies, TV shows are on there.
Good.
I wonder if Dune is on there so that I can Dune your mom.
Dude. I mean, not dude. Bro, shut the fuck up.
Dune, shut the fuck up.
Dune
and your mom.
There needs to be a new... I need to come up with a new type of banger like that.
Banger, I hardly.
Shut up. Too true.
Way to quote April there. I don't know why it pisses you off when she says too true. What's your opinion on cheese cereal, by the way? Oh, hey, Jenna. Oh yeah, what's your opinion on cheese cereal? Good or bad? This is why I hate puzzle-based horror games. Because I'm fucking stupid.
Never mind. Like, I guess you won't join, that's okay.
Wait, join what? I was playing a game.
Oh, join the group chat. Join the voice chat.
I already am in there. Are you just gonna add her to the call just so she can say too true?
No, I'm curious what's happening.
You're just gonna ask her about cheese cereal?
Yeah, I mean, why not? Anyhow, it's okay.
Why incest is morally neutral, a thread?
Wait, whoa, where?
Nothing, I'm just making a joke.
I dare you to tweet that.
I'll fucking tweet it and watch me.
Okay, I'm not getting canceled for that.
I'm pretty sure you will.
Yeah, I will.
Because anytime I tweet something controversial, you get in trouble for it.
Yeah, I know.
I even keep telling people, stop fucking blaming you, but they're too... Like, people like Par are too fucking stupid to realize there's two people.
Yeah, they realize it, they just don't care.
I think he's just legit too stupid. Like, his ego is just that massive that he's just too fucking stupid to comprehend two people on one account. But that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. Mad Pat wrote the theory, Squid Game did the praxis. I wonder if Luca's like getting canceled on Twitter right now for his stupid takes during the debate.
No, it's been pretty chill. Not as many people watch it.
Really? I remember I was earlier in Luca's chat and I said critical support to Luca against Ali as a joke. I wonder if people even recognize it was me. What the fuck am I doing?
Did people call Luca a pedo?
Yeah, there were people in this chat calling him a pedo. Probably the Maoists. Actually, Sammy was in my chat earlier, funnily enough. You know, the Maoist Sammy? Leader of the No Pussy Squad. It's a banger. Banger, I hardly know her. Wait. That's my secret. I always don't know what I'm doing. Am I just stupid or am I blind? What is this? I murdered the dinosaur. I tore off his legs. You know, something tells me Huggy Wuggy doesn't want to give me a high five back. Who are you talking to?
I'm waiting for you to record.
Are you still there? I can't hear you. Best part about horror games that are puzzles is that I'm fucking stupid.
I just realized something.
Therefore, I cannot comprehend where the secret is. Yeah?
Wait, are you streaming right now?
Why would you practically give this to children? Thank you. Have a nice day.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, did I say the N-word on your stream?
No.
Wait, so it didn't go on the stream?
No, because I couldn't hear you.
Wait, really?
No, I don't know what the fuck you were saying.
I didn't hear.
Dad yell the N-word or something?
No, I said it.
You fucking...
I said it 8 times. Because I forgot we were streaming.
You do realize I'm still streaming, right? You just, like, admitted to saying the N-word 8 times.
I didn't say the N... I'm joking.
You really are your worst enemy sometimes.
Okay, how many people are watching the stream right now?
Like 1. Pretty sure they all dipped after the debate was done. I don't really have much to play. Honestly, might just end it now. I'll end it after I find this fucking battery, wherever the fuck it is. Where did you hide this shit?
Anyhow, Lux.
Yeah. Are you gonna say the N-word again? God damn it. Oh god. Evan, where the fuck is that battery? Be thankful I don't have work right now so I can spend my time listening to you not say the N-word.
Yep.
Because you would never say something like that, right? Right?
right?
Yeah, you do realize if someone wants to, they'll just like go on Mike's stream and like try to find you saying the N-word to cancel it. Probably work too. Where is it? How hard is it to find a small fucking battery? Dune and your mom. Bro, can you talk English? Can't hear you. Into the abyss. Yo, what? Yo, they give us breaks. They're only 10 minutes long. Capitalism. According to Fisher. Dummy.
Okay. Anyhow, Lux, unmute yourself. I can't.
I didn't mute myself.
Hello?
Are you fucking with me again?
It shows green on your thing, but I can't hear a word you're saying.
I don't trust you.
Okay, what? Can you please? I'm so confused. April Fool's Day!
I fucking hate you.
Oh my god. You got told.
Of course you say April Fools. Haha, you're so funny, you fucking...
Hey, watch your profanity.
I'm not the one saying the N-word in private.
Okay.
You literally said the N-word 8 times.
Okay, all you'll ever have is me saying I said the N-word.
Yeah, and I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, well, you can't trust me, clearly. I mean, you'll never know when I say nigger.
You know, a broken clock is right a few times. Gonna stream Mooney Pop. Oh god, no.
Wait, you're not streaming now, though.
No, I still am.
Wait, what? Okay, good. You didn't hear me say that N-word. Okay.
You kind of did, though.
Oh.
Oh, no. Alright, I'm probably just gonna end